Elected officials, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and to all our viewers joining us on live stream from around the world. Thank you for joining us for this momentous occasion. My name is Zara Giovanni Fenelon, and it is my distinct pleasure to be your Master of Ceremonies this afternoon. We will begin our program with a rendition of the National Anthem by Zara Keshwani, followed by a recitation of a few verses from the Holy Quran by Kareem Bakshi, and translation by Asma Jari. Please rise for the National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we'd watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. ومن آياته منامكم بالليل والنهار وابتغاؤكم من فضله إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يسمعون. ومن آياته يريكم البرق خوفا وطمعا وينزل من السماء ماء من السماء ماء فيحيي به الأرض بعد موتها إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يعقلون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. And among his signs are the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the variation in your tongues and colors. Truly, in that are signs for those who know. And among his signs is your sleep by night and day, and your seeking his bounty. Truly, in that are signs for a people who hear. And among his signs is that he shows you lightning, arousing fear and hope, and that he sends down water from the sky, then revives thereby the earth after its death. Truly, in that are signs for a people who understand. Verily, God Almighty has spoken the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor to host you this afternoon for the design preview of the Ismaili Center Houston. The Ismaili Centers, conceived from the vision of His Highness Prince Karim Aga Khan, spiritual leader of the Shia Imami Ismaili Muslims, reflect a mood of humility, forward outlook, friendship and dialogue, providing spaces for broadening intellectual horizons and fostering an appreciation of pluralism, as well as for congregational prayer and spiritual search. During the Aga Khan's 2018 visit to the United States to commemorate his Diamond Jubilee, the Aga Khan confirmed plans to build the 7th Ismaili Center worldwide to be located right here in Houston, alongside a global network of ambassadorial buildings that have been built in London, Vancouver, Lisbon, Dubai, Dushanbe, and Toronto. In the words of the Aga Khan at the opening of the Ismaili Center in Dushanbe, we will seek to demonstrate that spiritual insight and worldly knowledge are not separate or opposing realms, but that they must always nourish one another, and that the world of faith and the material world are the dual responsibilities of humankind. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Al-Karim Ali-Dina, President of the Ismaili Council for the United States. Appointed by the Aga Khan, he has been involved in the social governance leadership of the Ismaili Muslim community for over 20 years in voluntary capacity. President Al-Karim resides in Northern Virginia and is a partner with Aon responsible for the Mid-Atlantic Market Solutions practice. President Al-Karim.
Thank you, Zara. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our esteemed elected officials, members of the design team, distinguished guests present here, and the many people joining us virtually on the Ismaili TV. Thank you for joining the design preview event of the Ismaili Center Houston today. At the outset, I would like to express our profound gratitude to His Highness the Aga Khan for the establishment of the Ismaili Center Houston in the United States, the first of its kind in this country. It is my hope that you will share in the Ismaili community's joy and excitement for what the center will mean for us, for all our friends, neighbors, and the wider community. The Ismaili community in the United States began with a handful of students arriving in the 1960s to pursue higher education. Since those humble beginnings, the community has grown significantly both in number and cultural diversity. Today, our community is composed of members representing heritage from 25 different countries. We are proud of our pluralistic composition, similar to that of Houston itself. The community consists of entrepreneurs and professionals in every endeavor and established in almost every state of the Union, with a large presence in Texas. Over the last 15 years, His Highness the Aga Khan has entered into agreements of cooperation between the Ismaili Imamate and the governments of the states of Texas, Illinois, and California. These agreements provide for the collaboration between the agencies of the Aga Khan Development Network and state-level institutions in the areas of education, health sciences, disaster risk management, environmental management, and culture. I should note that the establishment of the Ismaili Center Houston was incorporated in the agreement signed with the state of Texas back in 2009. In a few minutes, you will hear from Farshid Moussavi and Thomas Woltz about the center's design and its features, both the building and the gardens. As you will see, this center is designed with the purpose of serving as both a Jamaat Khana for the Shia Imam Ismaili Muslim community to come together for prayers, spiritual search, and contemplation, as well as an ambassadorial cultural center for the city and the state, driving knowledge sharing and thought partnership. It is our desire that an ideal day at the center be marked with lectures and sessions that discuss ideas and share knowledge, or with performances and exhibits that facilitate cultural exchange, or maybe with meetings and conferences that aim to solve the many issues of our time. Our core objective remains to provide Houstonians and others an inviting space where everyone is welcome, a place where pluralism and diversity thrive, where civil society is strengthened, where knowledge and cultures can intertwine in the broader melting pot that is this great country of ours. Today, I am reminded of His Highness's words at the opening of the Ismaili Jamaat Khana in Sugar Land, Texas in 2002, a place I believe many of you have either visited or are familiar with. His Highness said, quote, "The center will be a place of peace, humility, reflection, and prayer. It will be a center which will seek to bond men and women of this pluralistic country to replace their fragility in their narrow spheres by the strength of civilized society bound together by a common destiny. It is already a symbol of the hopes of people who live through change and turbulence and have ultimately found security and opportunity here in the United States, the majority of whom have chosen the state of Texas," end quote. So this center embodies our desire to give our best to the cultural and economic fiber of Texas and the United States. It solidifies our deep commitment to being lasting partners in building a pluralistic society and finding ways to unite diverse peoples and cultures. It represents our permanent presence in this country that we love, a presence that will, God willing, be marked by our ability to build bridges and serve communities in which we live. Beyond the thought and virtuosity of signature architects and designers, Ismaili centers around the world have become recognized for the humanistic vision and the ethos of service that is at the core of the Ismaili community. These centers pay respect to our 1,400-year history, while at the same time speak to a forward-looking community determined on making a positive contribution to the societies in which we live. Lastly, I convey my sincere appreciation to the countless people without whom this would not have been possible. Thank you to our design team, Farshid Moussavi of Farshid Moussavi Architect, who is the design architect for this project. Thomas Woltz of Nelson Bird Waltz Landscape Architects, who is the landscape architect. Hanif Kara of AKT2, who is the structural engineer. And Paul Westlake, the architect of record from the DLR group. And of course, all of their colleagues who have worked tirelessly to ideate, conceptualize, and design this magnificent center. We also look forward to working with the construction manager, McCarthy Builders, and the numerous local contractors who will build and craft this building over the next 3 years. I would like to thank Mayor Turner, Andy Eichen, and the city government for their continuous friendship and support. And I thank our local partners who have supported us through this process from the start. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the countless community volunteers without whom we would not be here today. Thank you all again for joining us today. Mayor Turner has been a strong partner and someone we have always been able to rely on for advice, support, and friendship. It is our honor to have worked with him on dozens of initiatives throughout his term. And we couldn't imagine a better friend to work with through this process. His support has been key in bringing the nation's first Ismaili Center to Houston. As many of you know, Mayor Turner has been called away to Washington, D.C. at the last minute for the signing of the infrastructure bill and is unable to join us here today in person. He has conveyed his regrets and has kindly sent us a video message, part of which is recorded from the White House, okay? And I would like to invite architect and at-large City Council member David Robinson to introduce Mayor Turner's remarks. Thank you so much.
Well, it is such an honor to be with you today, Mr. President. Thank you so much for your words and for this ceremony, for bringing us all together in this space. I want to express on behalf of Mayor Turner that he regrets not to be with us, but he does have important business in Washington. So on behalf of the mayor and my colleagues, I'd like to recognize that we've been joined today by our city controller, Chris Brown, my at-large council member colleague, Sally Alcorn, council members Edward Pollard, council member Carla Cisneros, and certainly Judge Hidalgo from Harris County. And if I've missed any other elected officials in the audience, I beg your pardon. But it is on behalf of the mayor that I speak today, not only as your council member, but as an architect, and one who Mayor White will appreciate from his time in office and from our mayor who served between Mr. White and Mr. Turner, Anise Parker, that she and I are both residents of Montrose, where this project will be located. And this has always been the crown jewel along Buffalo Bayou, the most available property that we've had in this city for decades and decades. And the words of inspiration this morning, read from the Quran, as well as what you've reiterated, Mr. President, these are great words: joy, transcendence. You've talked about peace. And of course, we are in the most diverse city in North America, and this Ismaili Center will be the first in the United States of America. We're very, very proud to be here today, and it is my job, without further ado, to recognize our mayor, our leader, in a video message that he's recorded and present you today from Washington.
Hello, Houston. Look, this is Sylvester Turner. How I wish I was right there. But I am so excited about the preview of this design, about the Ismaili Center. I want to thank everyone for making it possible. I wish I was there personally to join in with this celebration. But let me just say, this is an exciting time for the city of Houston. It's an exciting time for the Ismaili community. It's an exciting time for Houston itself. So enjoy. I know the preview of this design is going to be dynamic, and I can't wait to see the construction starting.
Hello, this is Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner, and I am so sorry that I cannot be with you today, but I did not want to miss the opportunity to share a message for this very special occasion. I had the honor of meeting His Highness the Aga Khan during his Diamond Jubilee visit to Houston in 2018. I was thrilled that he had chosen Houston as the site for the first Ismaili Center in the country. I knew then and I know now that no other city in the country embodies the values and spirit of an Ismaili Center. I've had the chance to view the work of His Highness and his institutions up close and personally over the last several years. My visit to Ismaili Center in London, a beautiful center in the heart of the city, allowed me to see the ways an Ismaili Center can help build bridges across communities. When I visited the Humayun's tomb in Delhi, it highlighted the value the Aga Khan places on the use of green space to foster human interaction. This is all part of a value system which His Highness has referred to as cosmopolitan ethics, to weave together various disparate identities into a bouquet that not only brings people and communities together, but allows the differences to be highlighted. This notion of learning about and accepting differences amongst people and communities, what we call pluralism, is central to the Aga Khan's vision for survival of a world that is increasingly interconnected and interdependent. And this has been a personal mission for me to ensure that everyone in this city has a seat at the table. The Ismaili Center Houston will add to the growing contributions by civil society organizations dedicated to improving the quality of life within our city and beyond. The Ismaili Center Houston will also be a place where the city's partners and stakeholders, public and private, can come together to discuss and solve the problems of our time. And it will be a place where Houstonians of all walks of life will be able to engage in intellectual, cultural, and artistic expression. Each of the 6 existing Ismaili centers around the world are architectural masterpieces that blend the historic roots of the Ismaili community with local nuances. As we will see today, the Ismaili Center Houston continues that tradition and will amalgamate traditions that reflect the Ismaili communities and the lead architect's Persian and Islamic influences. At the same time, it will celebrate and pay homage to the richness of Houston, particularly through gardens and spaces that blend naturally with the bayou that runs across the site. The Ismaili Muslim community in Houston and the United States have exemplified the values of service and caring for one's neighbors. Whether it was after Hurricane Harvey, during COVID-19 pandemic, or when Afghan refugees or Haitian communities fallen victim to an earthquake needed assistance, the Ismaili Muslim community always answered the call to serve its fellow citizens. I look forward to continuing my friendship with His Highness and the Ismaili Muslim community for many years to come, and it is my pleasure to have had the opportunity to support the realization of the Ismaili Center in Houston. On a personal note, I'm excited to have had an opportunity to mark today's special occasion as we unveil the design, and I strongly hope that we can open the center before the end of my term in 2023. This is a project that I have advocated and pushed for at every opportunity I've had with His Highness Aga Khan and the Ismaili community, because I truly believe this center will elevate, yet again, Houston on the world map as a global city with people of any background that can come together and succeed in their personal, family, business, and community lives.
Thank you, President El-Karim, and of course, Mayor Turner. We are so grateful for the mayor's continuous support since the announcement of the Ismaili Center Houston in 2018. I would now like to introduce Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo. Serving the 3rd largest county in the nation, Judge Lena Hidalgo is the head of Harris County's governing body and is the first woman to be elected county judge. Judge Hidalgo's leadership has been recognized through numerous awards and national honors. She received the prestigious John F. Kennedy New Frontier Award for her swift response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and was recognized with the Jack Brooks Foundation Leadership Award for her work to protect voting rights and access to the ballot box. Judge Hidalgo has also been named to Time Magazine's 100 Next list, as well as Forbes 30 Under 30. Judge Hidalgo, I'd now like to invite you to the stage to offer some remarks.
it's just wonderful to see everybody here, and congratulations. What a day of joy. And I could see some folks fidgeting, probably the architects, when Mayor said he hopes that this will be done before the end of his term. So, Mr. President and the team, you guys have your work cut out for you all. But look, this is a community, ours is a community where you can be worldly without ever traveling. And this will be another beautiful step in that direction. I just picture the folks from out of town driving down Allen Parkway, and they will see our wonderful bayou, which brings communities together, which shares so much of the incredible potential of this region and its beauty. Then they'll see the art and the sculptures and the tolerance statues on Montrose and Allen Parkway. And then they'll see the Ismaili Center, not just a place for cultural and social and obviously religious interaction, but a symbol of diversity, a symbol of this town. And I just can't wait for that site. Certainly, it will be a treat for all of us. Part of what makes us unique, and everyone's talked about it, is diversity, but diversity doesn't just happen by itself, and it doesn't perpetuate by itself. It requires tolerance, it requires learning, it requires communication. And as I see all the leaders in this room, the council members, Councilmember Robinson, so many business and philanthropic leaders, so many visionaries, it is because of you, each of you, and the leaders of this community that we can come together and celebrate this and make it a place where we don't just talk about diversity, we value it, we promote it, and that is beautiful. As your county judge, I continue to fight for this to be a community where those diverse perspectives not only exist, but thrive. Transportation, safety, flood control, you name it. We'll continue doing that so that this community, all communities, have the space, have the time for the joy of facilities like this one. So congratulations. I can't wait to see His Highness here when we unveil the physical structure, but I know construction is underway, and what a joy truly to be here with you all. See you again on Allen Parkway, and for now, a huge vote of congratulations and support on behalf of Harris County to the Ismaili community and to the beauty and diversity all of today represents.
Thank you for those amazing remarks, Judge. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce you to the design architect of the Ismaili Center Houston, Farshid Moussavi, who was selected by His Highness, the Aga Khan, after a design competition in the process for the center among some of the most innovative and pioneering architects across the globe. Farshid is an internationally acclaimed architect, and she's also a professor in the practice of architecture at the Harvard University Graduate School of Design, where she trained. Farshid was elected as a Royal Academician in 2015, Professor of Architecture at the Royal Academy Schools in 2017, and appointed Officer of the Order of the British Empire in the 2018 Queen's Birthday Honors for services to architecture. She was the chair of the Master Jury of the Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 2004 and a member of its steering committee between 2005 and 2015. Along with Farshid, we have the privilege of being joined by Emmy Award-winning journalist Melanie Lawson to moderate today's discussion. Yeah, that does. Now, she's interviewed a wide range of notables, including 3 US presidents, the Dalai Lama, and Maya Angelou, to name a few. Melanie received her undergraduate degree from Princeton University and a joint degree in law and journalism from Columbia University. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage for a short presentation from Farshid, followed by a fireside chat moderated by Melanie. Farshid.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. What amazing presentations and words of support. I don't know where to begin. Most people imagine that architecture is about coming up with an image and form. But in reality, it is a long and slow process and involves many people who work tirelessly to make it happen. And every one of those people, we will refer to the project, to the building, as their own. So I stand in front of you today on behalf of His Highness the Aga Khan, Prince Amin Aga Khan, the Imara Group Houston, the entire design and construction team. Excited to share the design with you for a building that is about dialogue and bringing people together in one of the most diverse cities in America. Now, as you've heard, Ismaili Centers are unique in their program and in their architecture. They serve as places where members of the Ismaili community come together to practice their faith, but also to engage in social interaction with other friends and members of the wider community in conferences, seminars, exhibitions, and various other community gatherings. And the purpose of these is to forge bridges through intellectual exchange. The site is, as you've heard, located in the city center along the Buffalo Bayou and the park. What is special about the site is that it has quite a large footprint, and only one side of it is enclosed. 3 sides of the site are open to passing traffic, and therefore it has a large measure of visibility all around. We've used the site characteristics as well as the wonderful weather in Houston to design a building that will be open and inviting. It has a compact footprint so that it would be surrounded, most of the site would be dedicated to beautiful gardens. We have adopted the tripartite form for the building, and each one of these volumes of this tripartite form will open out to the city by way of a soaring avan, which is a word in Persian for a veranda. These avans, by being open on all sides and visible from distances, will enable social and cultural gatherings to occur throughout the year, and they will mark the building as an open destination. We can imagine gatherings such as book fairs, markets, outdoor exhibitions, or, for example, outdoor learning events. They will render the Ismaili Center as open and inviting in every direction. Now, inside, there will be 3 atriums. These will be common, non-exclusive, and flexible spaces between rooms that are dedicated to various events. The central atrium that you see in the very center will have a step structure clad in screens that celebrate the heritage of cupola dating back to 3000 BCE and dominant in both the architecture of the Sasanian Empire in Persia and the Christian buildings of the Byzantine Empire. So it's a kind of a cultural exchange through architecture. Now, each atrium will be located to the avans in each volume or wing, and this is so that they will bring natural light and views of the sky to the very heart of the building, and they will enable visitors to move easily from inside to outside, which of course is very possible in Houston throughout the year. Visitors will be able to gather together in other spaces that that are arranged around each one of these atriums. Around the central atrium, there will be a cafe that opens out to the garden outside. There will be a black box theater that can be used for all kinds of activities. And here is a stepped multipurpose hall that will also be a flexible space. Now, in the east wing, which also connects to the East Avon. There will be a library, there will be numerous classrooms, and an exhibition space. So the interior will be spatially rich, which I hope will encourage you to come for many repeat visits. Now, we've designed the exterior walls in stone for a 100-year life cycle, which is something that His Highness has, it's been his mandate to us. This stone cladding is conceived as a tapestry in stone that will transition from solid areas to translucent screen areas, and from flat areas to alcoves that will allow people to rest and enjoy the gardens in shade. The building exterior will therefore be defined by simplicity of form, by openness, and an abstract decorative character. Now, what made the project especially rewarding was the close alignment between the client and the architect aspirations. What made it very challenging was my knowledge of the high standards that His Highness has set for architecture over many, many years. Moreover, he has designed, as you've heard, many other Ismaili centers, so he really had, started well ahead of me in the process. I feel honored to have been exposed to the experience of working with His Highness, and my hope for the building is that it will be a valuable contribution to the architecture in Houston. And I hope that through it, many ideas will flourish through the gatherings in the building that will help our communities to address the opportunities and the challenges that we face as a humanity in the coming years.
Well, first of all, I have to say how exciting it is to see the images now after having heard about this project for a while. It is so exciting. By the way, welcome to everybody who's here from out of town, and welcome to everybody else who's not. So we're glad to have you here. It is especially exciting to have you here. I love the idea that you think we have wonderful weather. I'll talk to you in August.
I live in London.
We will chat again. Well, Farshid, this is so amazing. First of all, your resume is dazzling. That is the only way I can put it. You're a London-based architect, Persian heritage. You teach at the Graduate School of Design at Harvard University, your alma mater, along with a few other places like Princeton and Columbia and UCLA. And you won this project, as we heard from the president, by beating out some real heavy hitters in the world of architecture, including names like Rem Koolhaas and David Chipperfield. So I've got to ask, what was it like to get the word that your firm had been chosen?
Well, to this day, I can't really express quite the feeling. I have done many competitions, and I've lost many of them. Winning a competition is a big deal, but winning this competition was a huge deal, precisely because I've had the benefit of being close to the Ismaili community and to the work that His Highness has done over the years. I know how significant this project is to so many people, and you just have to look at around the room here, that made it so much more significant.
Yeah, well, I can only imagine you screaming in the middle of the night as you got the news. Hopefully that's what happened.
They spelled it out very slowly.
Well, I think it's fantastic. I do have to ask you, though, share a little bit of the journey that brought you here, why you decided to compete for this, and how you feel about shaping such a major part not only Houston's landscape, but really the Ismaili landscape for so many people out there?
I mean, I think, you know, I'm sure every architect would love to work on this project. Mm-hmm. So I am aware of that. You know, it's a community project for a community that will be really vested in the building. You know, because architects dream of how buildings may be used. But ultimately, once you finish the building, it's down to other people's project and building, and sometimes it doesn't get used to its maximum potential. But I don't think this will be the case in this building, because it is run by the community, and we've seen how it is run in the other Ismaili centers. So I think that is a blessing to begin with. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned, you know, His Highness is really an architect. Mm-hmm. You know, he's done so many buildings, and I knew that it was going to be an extremely special experience working with him, and he has been involved in every single decision. Yeah. So what more can you ask?
Yeah. No kidding, to have a patron that is that involved. Now, I do have to ask the obvious. You're a woman. Surprise, everybody. And very few female architects have ever had a chance to really create a landmark building like this, certainly not in Houston. And did you feel the significance or perhaps the pressure of being a woman and taking on this task?
Not in this particular case. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, I think the only way to face the task is to put your kind of gender behind you and get on with the job, and that's how I've always worked. So I just think of myself as an architect, and that's it. Yes, there are extra challenges. I'm a mother, you know, and but it's a choice we make. Yeah. Yes, it's more complicated to be a mother and to teach and to practice, but I like it that way. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's going to be very exciting to watch you work. This is going to be only the 7th Ismaili Center in the world, after places like London, Dubai, Lisbon, Toronto. Also the first to be built here in the U.S., and we are extremely excited about that. Why Houston? Why do you think His Royal Highness the Aga Khan wanted Houston?
Well, I think there is a large Ismaili community here. And you know, Houston is one of the most diverse cities in America. And His Highness is really focused on pluralism. And I know through my experience of the Aga Khan Award for Architecture that he truly believes that architecture can improve people's quality of life. And if there is a large community here, then obviously having a building that serves them and allows them to build bridges with the wider community is very important.
And I was surprised when you told me this was one of the largest Ismaili communities in the country.
Yes.
Yeah, is that true?
Yes, it is. It is, yes.
Yeah. No, well, that is extremely exciting. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the Aga Khan and how he viewed all of this. He said that these centers are a global network of buildings that really work as ambassadors to the rest of the community, that they represent the community's attitude towards the Muslim faith and modern life while extending a hand of friendship, which I loved, and understanding to enhance relationships among faith communities, government, and civil society, that they're not just for spiritual search, but also for intellectual horizons, broadening intellectual horizons, and fostering an appreciation of pluralism. So that's a lot to get in. But I really wanted to talk about his vision, what he saw. And you mentioned that he loves architecture, he loves Islamic architecture. Well, what is his vision for this building?
I think Ismaili centers, which is a kind of a building typology that he's invented, they didn't exist before, are very much about allowing the community to both celebrate the kind of the broad heritage that somehow they're related to. We need to remember that many Ismailis are born in the US.
Right.
It's through their parents that they have that kind of connection. And I think part of His Highness's interest in seeing these Ismaili centers both as places that celebrate heritage and culture, but also belong to each one of the contexts that they are built within, is to allow the building to also be, even through their expression, to be a kind of a bridge. And I think this is what we've tried to work on together on this building, trying to be inspired by design philosophy that one finds in the kind of broad Muslim world, but also find ways in which that becomes contemporary and meaningful to a text and context. And I can imagine, I was born in Iran, and at the age of 14, from the age of 14, I've lived, in the UK. I've been British, and I think I can relate to this situation where you might feel both you belong and you don't. And I think what is great about the building that brings the community together is that it becomes a home. A home for them. So it's a home that then they, of course, invite their friends to. Yeah. And I think that's probably, I'm trying to speculate, it's my reading of it, but I think Ismaili centers are that kind of a home. And it's a home that there are many parties in.
Yeah, absolutely. We love the idea of many parties here in Texas. Is that why it was so important to you to give it a sense of openness, to have those three sides that are open so that people feel welcome?
Yes, I think this was one, I understood this as one of our tasks of how to interpret this brief from His Highness for the building to also have this outreach for the Ismaili communities to reach out and to build conversations, to enter into collaborations with people outside of the community. So that has to be expressed through architecture, and we've tried to introduce these outdoor covered spaces where you literally see people gathering. And hopefully you get excited to join everyone there, and you will visit. You know it's an open destination.
No, it sounds fantastic. Now, His Highness has said that he wants these centers to be architecturally unique, each building kind of incorporating spaces for gatherings as well as intellectual engagement, but also to bring in the outside. A major part of this will be looking at the landscaping, for instance, and I want to come back to that in just a moment. But what will make this center architecturally unique?
What will make it unique? Well, I think probably we don't have a building that opens out on all sides in quite this way. And hopefully the kind of the stone tapestry that you will see will have a sense of craft that will be unique and will remind you of the rich history of ornamentation in Islamic architecture. I think it's porosity and openness, it's inside-outsideness, I think will be unique.
And you talk about the outside, and so landscaping is a major part of this. Nelson Woltz, I believe you referred to him a moment ago, City Council member, who also worked on Memorial Park. Why is it so important to kind of marry both the architecture and the environment around it? After all, it's going to be sitting on the water there.
Yes. I think if we look at the history of, I'm not an expert in the Quran, but the relationship between man and nature is a kind of a big part of what is discussed. And Islamic architecture, historic Islamic architecture has played a lot of attention on the relationship and the harmony between buildings and gardens. Islamic architecture is deeply humanistic, but a kind of a humanism that is different to what we have recently done to our planet. It's about nurturing this harmony between the two. And so I think one of the things that as a team we've tried to do is to work together, establish as much dialogue between the building and the garden, and encourage people to move between the two, so that becomes part of your ongoing experience, and you develop an appreciation for this relationship to be part of your experience and to be a good one.
Yeah. One of the other things, and this was also a gift from His Royal Highness, the 7 statues that are there at Allen Parkway in Montrose that are so beautiful. They're called Tolerance.
Yes.
And is that something that you really focused on as well, to talk about the diversity of our world?
Well, it started, obviously, that was there. Definitely one of the starting points, our kind of neighbor, let's say. And His Highness has been, part of that whole project. So yes, it was definitely part of our conversations, and how you move from that over the road, over Allen Parkway. And we have an entrance at the very bottom of the site along the south that will allow people to enter the gardens from there. So hopefully they will stitch together into one better overall experience of the area.
Yeah. This is a daunting project, I have to imagine. You're sitting there kind of looking at all of this. What's been the easiest part and what's been the toughest?
The easiest part? The easy part has been to be really working with an amazing team and amazing clients. I think this has been the easy part. The most challenging, I think, is about trying to really respond to the challenges that His Highness has set. And in fact, I can truly say that the project has become better and stronger through constant soft nudges that he has made all along the way. And I've never experienced that with a project where the client kind of, almost like a coach, tries to push you to, just when things you think are settling down, he kind of unsettles it and wants you to do it better. And this has been a very special experience.
I love soft nudges. I'm going to use that later on. We've only got a few seconds, so I do want to ask this as well. You said that one of the things he wants is for this to be a 100-year building, to be a lifetime building, which is amazing to think about. When you sort of lay down at night and close your eyes, what do you want this building to be, for not just for us now, but for generations to come?
I think of it as things happening in the building rather than the building itself, because it's that kind of building. It has a lot of soul already, and so I would like to imagine that as I mentioned, that great ideas will be born in this building. Because we build the ideas, we make the ideas, and this is one of those kinds of buildings that is made for this kind of thing. It's not just a place we go and work like an office. It's not a place, say, like a museum where we go and view the work of others. Here we go and make things.
What are you most proud of?
So far, I mean, I'm proud to have arrived to this moment.
Yes.
And I'm proud to have become part of this community. I think architectural projects make communities, and you become part of new families. And today is the beginning of an extended family for me. So I'm proud to reach this moment, but I'm also nervous because this is the beginning of at least 3 years of construction where many things can go wrong.
Yeah.
So I have to be not too proud at this moment.
Yes. Listen, you've already worked through a pandemic. This is the easy part now. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, as your family members, you know how relatives and friends are. You have no idea how many times we'll all stop by to say hi.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Just bear that in mind. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
This is such an exciting project.
Thank you so much to both Farshid and Melanie for such a wonderful and eye-opening conversation. It was so amazing to hear about not only the structure of the building, but as you just said, the soul of the building that we're going to go see. So thank you so much. Now, I would now like to introduce the landscape architect for the Ismaili Center, Houston, Thomas Woltz. Thomas is the owner of Virginia-based Nelson Bride Woltz Landscape Architects. He was named the Design Innovator of the Year by the Wall Street Journal magazine in 2013. In 2011, he was invested into the American Society of Landscape Architects Council of Fellows, among the highest honors achieved in the profession. Thomas was educated at the University of Virginia in the fields of architecture, landscape architecture, fine art, and architectural history. His works include the design of major public parks across the world. These include Hudson Yards in New York, Memorial Park right here in Houston, the Aga Khan Garden in Edmonton, Canada, and Cornwall Park in New Zealand. While Thomas sends his apologies for not being able to join us in person, a few days ago while in Houston, he recorded his thoughts about the inspiration and the impact of the outdoor spaces of the Ismaili Center, Houston. I ask that you please turn your attention to the screens around me.
My name is Thomas Woltz, and it is my distinct honor and pleasure to lead the design team at Nelson Bride Woltz Landscape Architects to design the Ismaili Center, Houston, gardens, terraces, and landscapes. I'll begin describing the project by describing the site. It is the perfect site for an Islamic landscape in that it occupies a high plateau with a series of descending terraces toward the Buffalo Bayou River. There are many ancient precedents within the Islamic world of gardens with exactly this connection to the river. This project is oriented around a strong, powerful central axis that is a story of water. When you arrive to the central gate, you arrive to an octagonal basin that reflects the sky, the Garden of Light, surrounded by the dappled shade of large trees. Moving toward the building, you have a long axial basin that reflects the facade of the building and the sky that draws from important Persian precedents like Bagh-i-Fin gardens. The building is inseparable from the landscape. The two cannot function without one another. So an example of this is the four corners of the building mark the entrances to the social hall and the education wing, and each has a garden tailored to the different uses of the inside of the building. This rear terrace offers a transition from the primary building to the gardens below, a very broad terrace with pleached live oaks that will offer a shade base to the facade of the building. You overlook the most brightly colored of all the gardens, the Goltzar Garden. It is a collection of flowering shrubs and perennials that will be dazzling year-round. Along the cross-axis of this garden are a series of small basins or fountains, again supporting pollinators, but also that essential element in the Islamic garden, water, the source of life. Below the Goltzar Terrace, there is a cascade of stairs that are a shaded amphitheater with ramping walks to either side that allow universal accessibility to all of the gardens. Below this amphitheater is the Great Lawn, a sunken lawn that can hold up to 3,000 spectators for a lecture, for a musical concert, for any kind of large gathering. So if you imagine this stage has two sides for very large gatherings or more intimate gatherings on the seating. The Great Lawn is flanked by mixed rows of trees and large shrubs to create an immersive quality of nature for the penultimate garden. Moving closer to the Buffalo Bayou River, you come to the final garden, and this large circular meadow landscape serves as a sponge to floodwaters and heavy rains in the Houston climate, contributing to the prevention of flooding downstream and in downtown. When you exit through the cafe or the library to the backside of the building, you have long views out over the Buffalo Bayou River and the Buffalo Bayou Park. So this has been one of the most exciting aspects for us, is a deep commitment on the part of His Highness and the project leadership to these landscapes brought to Houston. In our 10 years of dialogue, he has always emphasized the importance of these garden rooms for gathering people, for reflection, for events, but also for quiet contemplation and meditation. This will be a joyful landscape, full of color year-round. The Ismaili Cultural Center will take its place amongst these extraordinary landscapes, but it fills a void that was missing, a void of representing global Muslim culture as it relates to the landscape. Now this will find a home in this state and in this city. Each project that we've worked on with His Highness over the last 10 years has sought to do exactly this, to take a tradition of Muslim landscape architecture, but adapt it to whatever situation that we find ourselves in, whether it's a rooftop in London, close to the Arctic Circle in Alberta, or in the Gulf Coast of Houston, Texas. For me, it is a poetic parallel to the resilience of the Muslim people who find themselves adapting to different cultures around the world. This project has the opportunity to educate and instruct according to the lessons of His Highness the Aga Khan in tolerance and pluralism. It is my sincere hope that this project brings greater understanding to the beauty and complexity of the history of the Muslim world, and that the landscape of the Ismaili Center Houston will serve to increase the understanding of this extraordinary culture and its rich history.
Now, before we close our formal program for the afternoon, I would like to invite Ann Stern, President and CEO of the Houston Endowment, to offer some closing remarks. Ann?
Well, I will close with an expression of deep gratitude to His Highness the Aga Khan, Prince Amin Aga Khan, and the entire Ismaili community. You all have worked with the city, the county, and the state to bring this project to life, and it's a joyful day. We are so grateful that the Ismaili community chose Houston to receive this incredible gift. A world-class building that will draw people to our city from all over the globe. But more importantly, a place with a soul that reflects and celebrates Houston's diversity and encourages us to connect across our differences. This gift will have a transformational impact on the quality of life for every Houstonian. How many of us have walked through Buffalo Bayou Park at sunset and suddenly come upon those amazing Plenza sculptures, Tolerance? And especially, I think, when they're illuminated at night, they are such a quiet but powerful symbol of tolerance, harmony, and mutual understanding. So just as those Plenza sculptures are a beacon and a symbol, so will this Ismaili Center be a beacon that puts these values into action for all of us. The Ismailis have been an important part of this community in Houston for so many years. Your commitment to community service, your commitment to building bridges across differences, this is nothing new. This is longstanding. This is who you are. But your vision and the principles that you live by have never been more important than they are today. So let each of us honor the generosity of the Ismaili community by affirming our own commitment to mutual understanding and to peace, and by working together toward that shared vision for a stronger community for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anne, for those insightful words. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Congressman Troy Nehls, Congressman Al Green, State Representative J.C. Jedden, State Representative Jean Wu, Mayor Sylvester Turner, and Mayor Joe Zimmerman, all of whom have recognized the Ismaili Center Houston through resolutions, proclamations, certificates of recognition, and even a flag that has flown over the United States Capitol. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our formal program this afternoon, and thank you for all of you that are joining us around the world via live stream. For more information about the Ismaili community or the Ismaili Centers, please visit us online at the.ismaili.org.